Joining us right now is a guy, the only player in NFL history that threw for 4,000 yards with 3 different teams. He ranks in the top 15 of all time in completions, pass yards, and touchdowns.
Wild.
And he also won the Heisman, too. That's pretty good. Please welcome back to the breakfast table our guy, Carson Palmer.
Oh, man.
Thank you. What an intro.
Oh, man,
Good job.
That's the GOAT.
I gotta give you your just due. Now, you partner with FedEx, and you are here to reveal the finalists for the FedEx Air and Ground Players of the Year. So first, let's look at the nominees for FedEx Player of the Year. Ooh, look at this list right here. Ooh, this is tough competition. All right, so Carson, take it away.
I mean, when you look at those numbers right there, it's Patrick Mahomes all day long. That number 50, that number 50 is insane. Ooh. But, I mean, who doesn't love Phillip Rivers and watching Drew Brees do what Drew Brees is doing at his age? It's been an unbelievable year for the passers. It's been an unbelievable year for the guys on the ground, too. Todd Gurley had a great year. Ezekiel Elliott led the league in rushing. You got Saquon Barkley's a rookie in that group. So there's a good mix of vets and there's a good mix of young guys.
Let's look at those running backs.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at them. This FedEx Ground nominees that Carson was just mentioning. Amazing year for the backs, like you said, Carson. How about Saquon?
I mean, to be a rookie and come in and on a pretty bad football team, and you look, Dallas and the Rams, those are good football teams. But to do what he did on a team that won, what they win, 5 games?
5 games.
I mean, that's spectacular. He did everything you wanted to see, a top 5 draft pick do.
Yeah.
Everybody at home is screaming about who should win. If you want to vote for the best quarterback and running back starting today on the NFL Twitter page and at NFL.com/FedEx. Winners will be announced at NFL Honors night before the Super Bowl, February 2nd. It's great nominees, man. This is loaded.
Yes, vote now. It's a great program. FedEx is donating $20,000 to the air winner and $20,000 to the ground winner, and it goes to our USO program, which is a great program that helps recently retired servicemen and women figure out what's next and transition to their next career.
Love that cause. You got to get your votes in or you cannot complain later. Carson, we have you here. We've broken down these 4 games this weekend every way that you can. So looking at you playing quarterback for so many years, which quarterback has the most to prove in this matchup?
Well, I think of all the games.
Of all the games.
Of all the games, I think Lamar Jackson does. You have so many issues in Baltimore. People aren't talking about. You got to figure out what you're going to do. Joe Flacco is going to eat up 14, 15, 16% of your salary cap next year. Are you going to move on from him and commit to Lamar? I mean, Lamar had a great year. They got to the playoffs, but they got to the playoffs behind that offensive line and behind that defense. At the end of the day, you got to be able to sit in the pocket and beat teams from the pocket. Lamar hasn't done that yet. Nobody's saying he can't, but he's done it with his feet. And to watch him do it with his feet, he took a lot of hits.
Yeah.
And he's not 245 pounds like Cam Newton.
Right.
He's running and getting hit, and he's 210 pounds. Those are going to add up in year 3 and year 4 and year 5. And if they're going to move on from Joe Flacco, he's got to prove it in these playoffs that they should move on from Joe Flacco.
Carson's being like this rational. We've been talking with such huge statements about Lamar, but you're right. And on 3rd and 5, is he going to make the pass that they need in a big spot? It's a great question. I'm going to go to the quarterback he's facing on Sunday afternoon, and someone that you obviously know very well from years being in the league. But it took you 13 seasons in the NFL before you were 1 game away from the Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers is now 37 years old, still kind of getting in there in age. What does Phillip Rivers have on his shoulders, and what would a win do, and what would a Super Bowl run do for his legacy?
Well, this is it. I mean, he's got to be looking at this like this might be my last chance. Whether he plays 2, 3, 4, 5 more years, which I would be shocked if he played for 5 more years, but he's looking at this going, man, this might be my best chance. This might be my only chance. So everything's on his shoulders. He's been through so much. He's watched so many good players come into San Diego and then leave via free agency. So he's watched a lot of turmoil. He's now moved from San Diego to LA. He's been through a lot with that organization. This might be his best and only opportunity at Super Bowl.
Now, we've talked a lot this week about the Steelers, Antonio Brown, the relationship with Big Ben. Now, you played with Chad Johnson, and I played with T.J. Houshmandzadeh. So I know those 2 type of personalities. Top-tier wide receivers. What was it like being the quarterback and dealing with those personalities?
Well, it's just part of the deal. I mean, at the end of the day, if you could just be the quarterback, that would be great. But you have to be the face of the franchise. You have to, sometimes you're a psychologist, sometimes you're a mentor, sometimes you're, there's so many different facets of being an NFL quarterback. Sometimes you're getting balls chucked at you. And, it's part of the deal. So it's tough, but at the end of the day, AB is one of the best one of the best football players in the entire National Football League. So he's not just a top-tier offensive player or a top-tier wide receiver. He's one of the best in the game. So once you sign a player to that kind of contract and you put up with a little bit of it, you've allowed it, it's only going to snowball, right? And it's finally kind of got to that point now where everybody's saying, can you trade him? Can you cut him? Are you going to cut or trade one of the best players in the game?
Right.
And then suffer those implications salary cap wise? Because that's a big issue. That's, you know, $16-17 million in dead cap space. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues with that. Once you let a player get away with this and get away with that, and then he gets away with throwing footballs and leaving practice, and then you're contractually, you know, you're stuck.
And it's hard to pull that back in. After they get money. And
you can't put your foot down now. It's a little bit too late.
Did Chad and you ever get into anything? I know he loves you, but then so how did you handle that when Chad and you would have these issues? You've got one of the biggest personalities in the league.
Great player.
But he's also a great player.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Chad knew I loved him and loved the game. He, you know, at the end of the day, I knew he loved me and loved the game. So yeah, it's just like my brother. You know, you always get in fights or issues or whatever it is, and you come back together. I'm sure Ben and AB will come back together. This is not the first time. This is the first time maybe we've heard about it.
Right.
This is not the first issue they've had on the field or in a meeting room. That stuff comes up. 16 games. They've been playing together for 6, 7, 8 years.
Right.
These things. This is not the first time this has happened. This is the first time it's been such a public issue and everybody's found out about it. But they'll come back together. They'll figure it out. But like you said, once you allow some things, you know, some things that we're not going to stand for this and we're not going to stand for that, but then you do stand for it and you let it happen, you've created this.
Yeah.
Now it's shocking we're hearing this out of Pittsburgh. You never heard this out of Pittsburgh before. That's, I think, the most shocking thing about this is what you're hearing from Le'Veon Bell back in August when we started hearing all those rumors and all that stuff. This is just shocking to the NFL world that it's coming out of Pittsburgh.
Yes, it is, because they're the Kennedys. It's Camelot, you know, the standard. I want to go back. Chargers-Ravens is going to be incredible this weekend, but I want to go back to Rivers because it's interesting. You were a franchise guy. You're also a SoCal guy, and you're a family guy. How does Phil do this with the commute and with the kids and with the obligations of being the face of the Chargers? How does he possibly do that? Because you can probably relate.
I actually think it's a perfect situation.
Let's hear it.
Because
9 children.
9 children's a lot of kids.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of kids.
Okay, go on.
9 on the way.
Yeah, okay.
9 on the way. But when you go home, and I have half that. So when I go home and have to sit in my office and lock the door, and then somebody's pounding on the door to play catch, and then go swimming, and that's distracting when I'm trying to study and focus on football. When he can get in that SUV and watch film, put on headphones, you don't even hear traffic, you don't hear kids. I think it's a perfect situation. He gets an hour and a half on the way in, and then an hour and a half on the way home. And when you're home, you can be dad, and you can play catch, and you can go swimming, and you can do math homework. When you try, when I was in Arizona, when my kids were getting older and I'd come home from work and then I'd have 2 or 3 more hours of studying to do, I'd almost always have to wait till they went to bed, which then keeps you up till 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I need my beauty sleep. That was a tough situation for me. I think it's perfect for him. He can study on the way in, study as soon as, when he gets out of that car and walks in the door at night, he's dad. He's not dad and studying and watching film. He's dad, which is great.
Spoken like a true father right there.
It's incredible. When you play for the Bengals, you should have moved to Shaker Heights. You know, just commute. We had Super Bowls. It's crazy.
Who's the most dangerous wild card team?
Philly. I think Philly is the most dangerous because they've done it.
I knew you were going to say
They've been there, but I'm not a believer in Chicago.
Tell me.
I think they're great on defense. I think if they get behind, they're going to be in an issue. They're going to have some problems. And until we see a little more out of Mitchell Trubisky, I don't believe in Chicago. I think Nick Foles is going to go in and play really well. You got Alshon Jeffrey, you got Nelson Aguilar, they've been waiting. They've been kind of just letting they've been letting Darren Sproles get right for the playoffs. They didn't want to see him in the regular season.
Darren
Get him
Sproles
ready
is
for the
22
playoffs.
right now.
Let me ask you something, because you mentioned Philadelphia Eagles, and we talk about magic, and I liken quarterbacks to shooting guards in the NBA. Once they're hot, they're hot. I don't care about your shooting percentage going into the game. Is there something special about Nick Foles, the fact that he's been there and he went on a hot streak last year and he is a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, that you can't quantify, that his numbers or his team numbers might not back up, that you see?
No doubt. Those guys have a ton of confidence in him. He has a ton of confidence in those guys. And I think this time of the year, one of the most important things is the health of your offensive line and your offensive line. If you can step into throws and you let Nick Foles get through 1 and 2 and 3 progressions, You got Lane Johnson, you got Jason Pierce, you got Kelsey. That's one of the best offensive lines outside of Pittsburgh. And when you can step into throws this time of year, you're tough to beat.
All right.
So good.
Let's just put it all out there. We got a team in the NFC, a team in the AFC. It's an open field. Who you got for Atlanta? Who's going to be playing in the Super Bowl, Carson?
I really want to see Phillip get there. I don't know if they're stingy enough, if they're physical enough, and that's what worried me last time when they played against Baltimore. Baltimore is salty on defense.
Yeah, you ain't lying.
I don't know if they're going to get past this one. But that's what's so great about how do you bet against Deshaun Watson? How do you bet against Tom Brady?
Every team
bet
has a
against
chance.
Andrew Luck.
Right.
Nick Foles. I mean, you can go through it. Patrick Mahomes. You just look at these playoffs. Drew Brees. I mean, I haven't even said Drew Brees
Carson,
yet.
pick 2 teams.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Chargers and New Orleans.
Yes, that's my pick.
Nice.
How great would that be to see Phillip and Drew?
Beautiful.
That'd be great.
The Pats get knocked off.
Yeah.
The Chiefs get knocked off.
Rams.
Hell of a time of year, man.
It's going to be fun.
It's good, dude.
Hey,
Really
Carson,
good, man.
we appreciate you having fun
Appreciate
with us,
it.
man.
Awesome stuff as always, man. Great.
Thanks for being here with us. After this, more on the wild card games. There are 4 this weekend. Ravens rushing attack and their salty defense. That's what we're going to talk about next. I like how you put that. Lamar Jackson took over and they're running the ball like crazy. It's not just about Lamar.